For those of For those of you who have come here for the first time for the program, can I have any of you type on the chat to say you're here for the first time on this program? That'll be great. Thank you for that. Where are we in context? We are dealing with Ayodhya Kanda. Out of the 7 Kandas of Ramayana, this is Kanda 2. In Ayodhya Kanda, we are specifically dealing with a segment where Rama has already been banished, Dasharatha has already passed away, thanks to the good counsel of Mantra and the action of Kaikeyi. And Bharata has just come back from his uncle and grandfather's place, and as Bharata comes in, he sees the situation of Ayodhya and is able to understand how Ayodhya has been affected because of the lack of the kingdom. Hare Krishna. Welcome, Shantala ji, Shantala Kumar. And in that situation, we are seeing that he goes and meets Kaikeyi, and Kaikeyi is breaking the news to him. So we will pick it up from there, where Kaikeyi is basically telling him that it's all my doing. It's not anybody else. It's me. I saw that Rama was getting coronated, and you know, I enabled for your sake. So she springs up with joy, but finally, when she breaks the news to him, don't grieve, don't be sorry. She's actually giving him advice, like Krishna is giving Arjuna. Can somebody again remind me of that? What is the advice? What is the verse where Arjuna is saying, I am completely bewildered by this situation?
Karpanya
Seeing
dosha.
very nice. Karpanya dosha. So literally, Bharata is speaking the same language here, and so she's basically when she hears, but before that, he's asking, "What has happened to my father? How did he pass away? What were his instructions to me?" And then he's saying, "Now that my father is not there, let me go and offer my pranams to Bharata, to Rama, because now he is my father, he is my brother, he is my friend, he is my Lord and Master to whom I am servant." So she says, "He's not here too." So then, how did it happen? So she basically breaks the news, saying, "When I heard of the consecration of Rama, then I pulled out the 2 vows, which were 2 boons that were sitting many years ago unutilized. And seeing that, I asked that you be coronated king, Rama be sent out to the forest." So Sita and Lakshmana got banished along with them. And so I've done all this for you. Dasharatha was in a sorry state because of the absence of his son, and then Panchattvam Apannam, he became one with the 5 elements. And therefore he says, "Listen, you are the knower of Dharma. You shouldn't be perturbed. Ashochanam rasochastvam prajna vadamscha vasashe gatasuna gatasumscha nanu sochanti panditaha." You cannot lament like this, like a little guy. This is nothing small. Don't be sorry. Be courageous. In fact, the kingdom needs you at this point in time. You see, many times people come and they want to become chief minister, but people don't want them. But in this particular situation, Dasharatha is gone, Rama is gone, Lakshmana is gone. There is none other than you. People need a king in space for them to feel comfortable that the king is under control. So they need you. This is perfect time for you. And he says, "Let me make it short for you. All you have to do, Vashishta knows everything that needs to be done. Be under Vashishta's guidance, and you will see that you will be coronated immediately. And this Rajyam Akantakam, without any hurdle at all, this entire kingdom is going to be yours." So just finish the final rites and consecrate yourself to be, coronate yourself to be the king. What do you think is Bharata's response to this? She is speaking as if this is a mere normal activity that has happened, and you know so she's speaking in this manner. So what is going to be Bharata's response? Can somebody give me a heads up? Well, you're going to see. The first thing Bharata does is, there is a beautiful verse which is coming from the Bhagavatam and other scriptures. The verse says, if you actually get to hear something absolutely blasphemous of either Sanatana Dharma or of a great devotee, then your first duty is to actually cover your ears, and you can't do anything about it. But if you are in the position of a king, if you are in the position of authority, then you may have to put that person in place. So you can go ahead and punish that person if that is the situation. And worst case scenario, you can kill somebody who does something like this. Bharata is not in a position to do any of that. So what does he do? Karnau karabhyam prachadhya. Karnau karabhyam. With his hand, he closed his ears. And when he's hearing this, that it is all this lady, his mother, who has played this whole ploy to see that Rama gets banished to the forest, then Chakarata, he falls down. So he's completely unconscious hearing this particular thing. Initially, he was already in that state when he heard that his father has passed on, but now it is getting added on. So he's saying, you're piling up one after another. The fact that my father is gone was in itself a great misfortune to him. But now, dukhe me dukkan akaro. Yes, vrine ksharam ivadadaha. Vrine ksharam ivadadaha. You're piling up one sorrow over another to me. Till now I thought it's the sorrow of my father passing away. Then I heard of the sorrow that Rama and Lakshmana have been banished to be like ascetics, wearing deer skin and this thing, going to the forest. But now you're telling me it's your doing, because of you, that this has happened. Vrine ksharam iva means just as if you get hurt, gaon par namak dalna. That's exactly the Sanskrit equivalent of that. So he said, this is what you're doing to me. So here starts Bharata accusing Kaikeyi in so many words. What's he saying? He says, it looks like my father was unfortunately entertained you in his life, and he gave you this position, and he, unknowingly he has done this for sure. It looks like he has been embracing coal. Kulasyatvam abhavaya. You have come here to destroy this whole dynasty. That's the purpose. Yes, I am seeing Mataji saying he feels tormented. Can somebody read that comment for me? He is tormented with sadness, starts lamenting, calls Kaikeyi greedy, cruel. He is furious. Purnanand Joshi ji, welcome. So this is a very, very difficult situation that he's facing. So in this situation, then he's saying, one, you have come here to destroy this whole dynasty. Two, you are angara, coal. Angaram upaguhya sma. Unknowingly, this king has been embracing a piece of coal. That's what you're here to burn everybody. And kula nashana. You have come here to destroy. And then he says, I cannot imagine how much Kauslaya and Sumitra must be drowned in sorrow at this point in time. In what way did Rama do anything wrong to conduct himself in such a way that you thought he is worth being exiled, thrown out of this kingdom? Because the history we have already seen before. The history is that people get thrown out of the kingdom if they have done something very negative, taken away the wealth of people, say Brahmanas for instance, or coveted somebody else's wife, or enabled the killing of a child in the embryo, that's an abortion, or things like that. So Rama has conducted himself perfectly, and the way he dealt with you like as if you were his mother. Yes. And then Kauslaya has always been dealing with you as if you are his sister. Tata Jeshta Hime Mata. Bharata is saying, Me Mata, my mother Kauslaya. Tata Jeshta Hime Mata Kauslaya Dhirga Darshini. This person is such a magnanimous minded person. That mother of mine, Kauslaya, has treated you just like a sister, and you have done this to her. What was the reason for banishing Rama? He goes on and on and on, getting on the case of Kaikeyi here. So we are dealing with chapter 73. So then he says, hey, listen, you probably don't know me at all. And possibly she, it's very clear, she actually doesn't know Bharata. But Vashishta seems to know Bharata. Yeah, he's saying, you don't know. Vashishta is making this mention to her. You don't know Bharata and don't think he's going to stoop so low. So he says, do you know why I need Rama? He says, my power is nothing compared to Rama. This is like you're giving the job of a bullock, a full grown bullock, to a new calf that's just finding its way. How is it going to be able to take that burden? It's not possible. I don't have that power, or I don't have that capability. Are you able to understand that Dasharatha relied on Rama just like, the how stable the Meru mountain is? In a similar manner, Dasharatha relied on Rama. And you expect me to take care of this? I may be capable of actually, even by using Samadana, Veda, Danda, yes, I may even be capable of running this kingdom, but no way am I going to do this to allow you to actually go ahead and fulfill these wild dreams of yours. I'm not going to be part of this under any circumstance. And then he says, I would have completely given up on you, but I have a problem because of which I cannot give you up. The problem is Rama treated you like his mother, and if he comes back, I will be answerable to him, and therefore I am not able to abandon you. That's the kind of dedication Rama has for you. So then Bharata goes ahead reprimanding Kaikeyi. Say, how did you even entertain such a thought? How could something like this come to your head? This is not the norm of our family. Yes, the norm of our family is always the elder is ruling, and the junior is always subordinate, and he's working with him. That's the norm of the family. Where did you get this into your head? You don't have any respect for our royal traditions, righteousness. This whole sampradaya runs on one basis. This whole family runs on Tesham Dharmai Ekarakshanam. There is only one thing that protects this dynasty. It is though our kingdom is known as Ayodhya. I was doing a video recently on what is Ayodhya. Ayodhya means that with which you cannot mess around. You cannot battle. You would never have the guts to go and battle with Ayodhya. It's such a powerful place. Powerful place because it was established by Manu in the first place, and then coming in the same dynasty through Raghu on to Aja, and then finally Dasharatha. Dasharatha being such a strong person that even the Devatas used to come to him for support when they had to fight some of the Asuras. With that, not only that, the place was filled with great Maharathis, and the city was always, people could hear the twang of the bows where people were practicing bow and arrow. They had the best horses, they had the best elephants. The kingdom had a huge fort all around it, big fortress walls, and the kingdom had moats where there was such deep waters that people will never cross the moat and cross the fort wall. And Ayodhya was not something like a small little London. The old London is 1 square mile. Ayodhya was 96 miles by 24 miles breadth. That's the city of Ayodhya, and that is 2,600, 400 some square miles, while London was 1 square mile. You can imagine the size of the metropolis of Ayodhya. So that's the kingdom where all great warriors were like as if there were many lions roaring from one cave. Such great warriors and such great people were there. Nobody would ever think of even fighting with this Ayodhya. That king, Dasharatha, had complete reliance on Rama, and he thought him worthy of coronation. You think it's so easy to topple that and take his shoes? Is that going to be possible for anybody? This is not possible. So, actually, he says, if only it had not been for Rama, I would have completely abandoned you for you being such a wild person, making such a stupid decision. And then he says, actually, nothing else can protect you. I will not fulfill your desire. You know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to become king. I take a vow now at this point in time that I am going to bring my brother here, and I will see to it, I will be his servant, see to it that he's coronated and he's ruling this place. I will be his servant, and with all my heart, I will be serving him. It's a very beautiful verse worth talking about. He says, Dasa bhute bhuto bhavishyami, dasabhuto bhavishyami, sustirena antaratmana, with sustira antaratmana, my mind and my soul in total satisfaction, steadfastness, where I am actually serving who? Dasabhutena bhavishyami, I am going to become his dasa. Then um, Nivarta Yitva Ramam Cha, after bringing Rama back, Tasyaham Deepta Tejasa, that resplendent personality, I'm going to bring him back here and then I will be his servant and I'm going to serve him. And that's what you're going to see. Your plans are not going to be fulfilled and I will not allow them to be fulfilled. That is chapter 73 that we've just done up with. I move on to chapter 74. Any questions, comments? Anybody? Questions, comments? Anything that I'm missing out on? Some of the earlier people who have attended the earlier sessions? Okay. Then I move on to the next chapter. So, here Bharata is roaring like a lion because he's so angry, speaking loud. People can hear outside. He doesn't care. Doesn't matter to him. So, in that situation, Simho Yata Parvata, just as a lion is roaring in a Parvata. Then he says, overtaken by wrath, he reproaches his mother further. There will be no kingdom for you. In fact, you will weep after my death. You have put me in such a situation, I think it is better I actually die. Yes? They never harmed you. You're a destroyer of our race. You know what you're going to get? You're going to get hell. Your husband has attained such beautiful planets for the kind of great job that he has done with regard to his kingdom, and the amount of affection he has had for Rama, and he has done all his duties beautifully. He's going to attain he's going to attain the good planets. He's going to definitely go back to the spiritual world. But you're going to hell. That's what's going to happen to you. And you have caused my father's death and Rama's exile. He's on and on over it again. So he says, actually, you're a mother, but you're actually my enemy. Matrurupeda ma amitre mama amitre, you're my actually not mitra, you're amitra, you're my enemy, matrurupena. And actually I really doubt whether you are the daughter of this great grandfather Ashwapati, with whom I have been for this long and I've just come back. I really doubt whether you belong to the to his race. And he says, it's my fate. Look at my fate. Look at my situation. My situation is that now I'm fatherless and I'm brotherless and I'm full of enemies. When you have enemies, that's when people who are close to you are going to be there to support you. Full of enemies. Why does he say full of enemies? The entire Praja dislikes Bharata and Kaikeyi. Everybody from the counselors and the Brahmanas onwards, everybody dislikes this whole Kaikeyi and anything to do with her. So I have won a world full of enemies thanks to you, and I've also lost my father and I've lost my brother, who may be able to support me in this kind of a situation. Then he says, you may not understand what is the difficulty of separating a son from the mother. Mind you, she's been away from her son for 12 years. So he is saying, you have separated Kauslaya from her son. Yes, and that's her only son, and you have separated her. Tasman priyatamo matuhu priya eka tu bandavaha. Out of all the relatives, if there is somebody who is very dear to a mother, it's her son. And then he goes ahead and narrates a beautiful story of Surabhi. Surabhi is the transcendental cow. So once Surabhi, Indra was traveling and he suddenly felt something like rain on him. Generally, Indra is the cause of rain. There is no rain on top of him. But he was traveling in one space and he saw something like rain fall on him. So he looked up to see what it is. And just by the fragrance and aroma of that rain, he was able to understand that this is from Surabhi. So he looks up and confirms that this is Surabhi from whom. So he immediately goes to Surabhi and he says, is that your tears, Surabhi? I'm so sorry. um, it frightens me, because if you are going to be in tears and in pain, that means a danger for us. So she says, it's what happened was Surabhi was seeing that a farmer was. Surabhi has thousands and thousands of sons and daughters. So she saw that a farmer was using her sons for plowing, and he was beating them. And this had gone on for so long. It started at sunrise and it went on straight till the noon. And the sun was beating at the oxen, and there was no letting go. This farmer was still on the case of the oxen, pushing them, prodding them, and finally, unable to do anything. They had tears in their eyes because of pain, and they're falling on their legs, on their knees. So, seeing that situation, very difficult situation, she had tears. So, when Indra saw this, Indra was totally alarmed. He comes to her and he asks her. So, this is Kamadhenu replying. So, Bharata gives this particular case. Um, Nastri putra samah priyaha. This is what Surabhi tells him, that like one's children, there is nothing, nobody who can be equal like one's son. And even if there were 1,000 sons, if a mother is to see her son suffering, she is going to be in tears. So, though Surabhi herself is Lokadharana Kamaya, was such a great personality, Surabhi, the mother of all transcendental cows. And she, what was her desire? Her desire was to give to everybody in the world, giving milk, giving cow dung for agriculture, giving urine to enable other activities of agriculture and purificatory activities and health. So she is constantly giving. That Surabhi could not tolerate, yes, what is happening to two of out of her thousands of sons. So at that point, Bharata goes and says, "You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to atone for my father and my brother." And what is that going to do? By atoning for what has been done to my father and brother, by atoning, Vardhanam Yasaschapi, yes, Sakalam Imam Vardhanam. In all areas of my life, I'm going to get fame and this thing for doing that, for atoning, because that's the right thing to do. Karishyami Nasamshayaha. Have no doubt, I'm going to atone for all the nonsense that you've done. And he says, I'm going to get Rama back here. And he says, if I fail, I will enter the forest as the ascetics do. Just as Rama has done, I will enter the forest. I will not come back into Ayodhya. This morning or earlier yesterday, I was dealing with one of the kids because we are preparing for the Ayodhya tour. So we were reviewing. I had requested the youth, to work on the dossier on different places and what was happening. So Bharata, there was a place for Bharata, and one of the boys was telling me that the place where Bharata, Nandigrama, is so far away from Ayodhya. So the reality is, if you think of Ayodhya the size that it should be, Bharata decided not to get back into Ayodhya because he could not bring Rama back. So he stayed outside, yes, in Nandigrama, which was, as good as being away from the city in entirety, and he could rule from there. So that's what happened. So he said, I will not enter this place again if I fail to bring Rama. Unless I coronate Rama, I will not enter Ayodhya. And then he said the heaviest thing. The heaviest thing that none of us should try to emulate. But that was the rage that Bharata had. He says, you can go jump in fire. For what you have done, you can go jump in fire, go to the forest, get lost, or hang yourself. Yes, I don't care, it doesn't matter. When Rama comes back to this kingdom and takes over, gets coronated, that's the day I will actually be exonerated. Yes, I'll be relieved of the burden that has been. Ahamapi kritakrityo bhavishyami. I will consider myself kritakritya, completely absolved, having achieved something in my life. So the highly enraged Bharata was feeling like an elephant that is being prodded by a mahout with the god, so much in pain, hissing like a serpent, dropping on the floor, crying, bloodshot eyes, blood red eyes. Uh, and though he's scorcher of enemies, but he was tormented in that situation. The way he was crying, his kapda had fallen off in places, his ornaments had been disheveled. He was in a completely painful situation, and this particular roar of Bharata was being heard outside. And who heard it? Mother Kaikeyi hears this roar, and when she hears this roar, just a sec. I'm Mother Kausalya hears this roar. I'm sorry. So Bharata again swoons, falls. When he wakes up, comes to consciousness, some of the counselors are already there. So he tells them, sorry, I need to open one more document. Any questions, comments till now?
Yeah, Prabhu had a question. Can I ask?
Please.
So they say that pure devotees of the Lord don't have any enemies, right?
Hmm. Okay.
Um, so then, like Mother Kaikeyi, she's also like a pure devotee of the Lord. It's just the Lord's Leela that, she's placed in such a bad situation, and her own son is, cursing her for what she has done. And it's only after that does she really realize what she's done. Up until now, she was like blindfolded by ignorance. Um, so then, like, is it because of the Leela as such? Or like, I'm not doubting the fact that she's a pure devotee, or because she ended up having her own son as her enemy and every other resident of Ayodhya. So does it like prove the fact that pure devotees don't have any enemies false?
Uh, nice question. It's a First of all, a statement like this is a 50,000 feet statement. Okay. Uh, Now, did Yudhishthira have enemies?
No, that's what they say.
Yeah, you call him Ajata Shatru, yes, somebody who has no enemies at all. But in reality, did he have enemies? Did people want to fight with him?
I mean, Duryodhan was the biggest.
Okay. The point is the quality of the person was such, just as Rama. You will see Rama um, first. There is Mandodari who's speaking the glories of Rama, the person who has killed her husband. And then there is Tara who's speaking the glories of Rama when Vali was killed. And then there is Akampana, who saw the greatness of Rama. He went and he spoke that to Rama. And then there is Maricha, when I'm sorry, he spoke to Ravana. Akampana went and spoke to Ravana. And then there is Maricha, uh, who who um, who basically got thrown away. And when he meets Ravana again, he is speaking the glories. Surpanaka, who came, who was oogling Ram Pe Fida, Surpanaka. So what happened to her? She is speaking the glory. So when it comes to the quality of a devotee, generally, the quality of the person is so pure and fantastic that the person is actually doesn't have an enemy. Even though Yudhishthira was in battle an enemy, mind you, like Mahabharata, for instance, when they had the battle, mm, uh, they would meet every evening. So till sunset, they are fighting. But after sunset, they would come together. They will wish each other well. They will have a game sometime. There's so many such things that would happen between them. So that was a completely different zone to me. Now, what has happened here is Rama, who's so close to the heart of everybody, and Kaikeyi is unsettling that particular affection. This is not an affection of this particular Janma, but this is Janma Janmantara. The affection that they have developed is the affection that they have developed for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, to disturb that affection It's not a small thing. It's a great sin to do. So is Kaikeyi somebody who's a pure devotee of the Lord? Would you classify Kaikeyi as pure devotee of the
Yeah,
Lord?
yeah, she is.
How do you know?
That's what they say.
They who
I mean, I may be wrong, but that's what I know.
know from where? Yes.
The
So somebody else?
No, the Ramayana says that she loved Rama like her own son until Mantara came and disturbed the whole thing.
Absolutely. And not only that, this whole drama, actually, Kaikeyi truly became the was everybody's many buddies very loved before. When Bharata um, receives the messengers, you know, he's actually he's asking the messenger, "How's my mother?" That lady who thinks she's always who has one-upmanship with everybody, who thinks she knows everything, and this whole thing that spoke about. So Bharata is basically getting on a case to basically say that she's somebody who's always angry, very quick to be disturbed, and a whole load of qualities there of that personality. Is she a devotee of Rama? Yes, of course she is a devotee of Rama. Is she a special person in Rama's episode? Of course she is a special person. Was she in this case an instrument that was being used to enable this whole Leela? Yes, the Acharyas also say that it is there, it is coming in different commentaries to say that she was just being used in this particular situation. So, do we hate Jai and Vijay? No, we
No.
don't. But when they become Ravana and they carry Sita away, or when they do all those messy things that they did we hate them?
Yeah.
Yes, we hate them for that. We hated Kamsa for having killed so many of the children before this thing. We hated Kamsa for we hate Kamsa for so many things. Now you can say he's a devotee of the Lord. He should have no enemies. When
Okay,
you play
yeah.
that role, so when you play that role, you're going to gain enemies. If you gain enemies, it means you played the role well. Yes. So whether it is Hiranyakashipu, whether it is Ravana, whether it is Kumbhakarna, if they played their role right for the pleasure of the Lord, then they will have enemies. So having those enemies is proof that you're playing your role well. So in a similar manner here, Kaikeyi, though she plays this particular role for this patch of a few days, yes, and these few days have completely ruined her reputation. But again, here you see what Bharata is saying. Rama loves you so much as a mother. He treated you as a mother. He treated you completely non-different from how he would treat Kaushalya. Yes, and therefore I can't do anything with you. So that should be our understanding also. And if you see immediately after, when Rama comes back, she's the first person to whom Rama goes and offer obeisances when he comes back. So the love for Rama has not changed in any way because she is a devotee. And therefore, is she a devotee? Yes, she is a devotee of Rama. But she's playing a role so that the devatas don't have to wait for too long. If she had not banished him, then Surpanaka Leela and start off to bring Ravana is not going to happen. So that's an important zone to be. Does that sort of answer your question?
Yes, Prabhu, more than anything. That was really nice. Thank you. Hari Hari.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Any questions, comments? Any elders here who would want to add on? You can add a few more points to what I'm saying. There are many knowledgeable people here. Okay. So Bharata, when he sees this scenario, um, he's seeing counselors sitting around when he's again back to consciousness. So in front of them, he's starting to exonerate himself. So what's he saying? He says, I've been, please, you need to understand. First thing is, I've been away from this place. And I was completely unaware. I had no information that there was a coronation that was going to happen for me to start reacting in this manner. And I have not been in touch on WhatsApp with my mother every day, nor did I counsel her that she should do all of these things. I've had nothing to do with any of these things. And then he expresses his desire that he wants to meet Kaushalya. In the meanwhile, as I was saying, um, the roar of Bharata because of anger was being heard outside, and Kaushalya is able to hear his voice. So Kaushalya says, "That looks like Bharata." She tells Sumitra, "I want to go meet him. Let us go." So it looks like there is like a passage between the palaces. So there's this palace across the other side, and this palace of Kaikeyi on this side. And from Kaushalya's palace, Sumitra is supporting Kaushalya, who's very frail at that point in time because she's been constantly fainting. She's hardly eaten anything. And the first loss was Rama, second loss was Dasharatha. So she's been through a lot. So with the support of Sumitra, both the ladies are coming. And as they come, they're almost faltering and they're walking towards Kaikeyi's palace. So when they're walking towards Kaikeyi's palace, the description says that Bharata and Shatrughna are also walking along at the same time. So when they see the mothers, they come running and they just sort of manage to hold them and embrace them at that point in time. So so you see, it's so beautiful that but the mother is thinking, Kaushalya is thinking that I want to meet. But you know what is the word she uses for that? Kaushalya Shabdamagnyaya. Kaushalya heard that sound. So then she's saying, Agataha Krura Karyayaha. That Krura Karyayaha. Kaikeya Bharata Sutaha. That son, Bharata, who is the son of Kaikeyi, who is a woman who does Krura Karya. But still, Kaushalya is not blaming Bharata entirely for that. Tamaham drishtumichami, him I want to see. Why? Bharatam dirghadarshinam. She says Bharata, who's a very broad-minded person, I want to go see him. Can you imagine? Most of the world would had a problem with Bharata, but Kaushalya, within heart of hearts, she was being ripped apart. Is this a problem guy, or is this a good man here in the name of Bharata? But she is speaking privately to Sumitra, and she's not saying, "Here comes the rascal." No, that's not what she's saying. She's saying he's here. So as they proceed towards each other, they meet. So when Kaushalya sees him, she loses her consciousness. And then when she wakes up, she reproaches Bharata. She says, Idam te rajya kamasya, this the kingdom that you were desiring. Rajyam praptam akantakam. I hope an unhindered kingdom has been achieved, and I hope you're happy with that. But why this crooked means? Why this crooked means? Shigram kru, krurena karmana. Why this vile way of doing it? Why was this done like this? Why did my son have to be exiled with bark garment going on to that? Yes, that he has to go to the forest. She's requesting Bharata, please, now that, you know, because of your mother and all this action, he's been sent away, just do one thing to me. Pack me up from here, send me to the forest. I want to be with my son. Now that my husband's also gone, I have no duty to do here. Send me there too, is her request. And then that may, you know, all the abundance of this kingdom, its grain, its wealth, elephants, horses, chariots, she held on to everything for you. So you happily be here and enjoy that. So at that time, Bharata basically appeases Kaushalya. And then he says, actually, your words are like you're poking me with a needle. Please don't do this. And his senses are reeling. He's first even not able to speak. He's not conscious for a long time. And then he laments profusely. He falls at her feet. When he regains his senses, he stands there motionless. He doesn't have anything to say. He's completely overwhelmed by the fact that Mata Kaushalya thinks that I'm happy of having achieved. He says, I'm completely guiltless. Please, you don't upgrade me like this. Please don't. Uh, my affection, Vipula. Vipulam cha mama pritim. My affection for Rama is vipula, is profound. Stiram jana siragave. And to Raghava, I'm very, very steady with my affection to Raghava. Krita shastranuga buddhi. He says, I've studied enough scripture. Uh, and if it is going to be, so here starts a completely different section. So here, from here onwards, um, he's going to basically speak about how he's exonerating himself. And I'm moving on to a different set of notes for that. Okay. Um, sometimes we get blamed for doing something, and we can say, let the dogs bark, and leave it be. Let's just tolerate what's happening. We don't need to do anything about it. Yes, but Bharata's action here shows this in a different light, and that could also be colored by the fact that he's a kshatriya, he's a king, and it's like all over the place. Everybody knows, people know, and he will have to exonerate himself from this. Otherwise, he would be considered a completely sinful rascal. So Bharata is going out of the way to exonerate himself publicly. There is a note that I will share with you in the end of this particular session, and you will be able to understand that also. So from now on, for the next almost 30 shlokas, there is a discussion where every verse finishes with this Yasyaryo Anumate Gataha, that to say that whoever has actually enabled this, may that person um, you know attain the worst possible fate. May this happen to that person. Mm. So this particular Yasyaryo Anumate Gataha comes in every verse after this. So first he says, if I have studied any scripture, O mother, if I have studied any scripture, if I had anything to do with banishing Rama, may whatever I have studied not come to my help under any circumstance. Can you give me one great hero who lost uh, what he studied when he needed it most?
Karna.
Yeah. Is that a hero or a villain? Yes.
He's There's a story behind it, right? The thousand kavachas and all that.
Mm, mm. So there are many ways he's a hero, but again he plays the role of being a villain to enable the whole uh, cleaning up the whole dynasty there. So then he says, if I had participated in banishing Rama, may I get that sin of that person who's a servant to somebody who is actually dealing in wrong activities. Yes, that is, the person is like, say, many times we have to work with a company which is dealing in meat, for instance, or some such other thing. That's not the best place to be, and therefore we are going to gain sinful actions, reactions for that. So he says, may I be in that situation where I actually gain something like this. Then he says that this segment is talking about dealing with servants. It's beautiful. We really need to understand this. So, dealing with servants, he says, when somebody has done the karya, yeah, he has done a great job and he's done a good job about it. Karayitva mahat karma, he's done a great job. Bharta Vrityam Anartakam. Yes, but then without Artakam, you tell him, no, no, no. Why you didn't do it within the time that I told you? It was done 1 hour after that. It should have been completed on that day at this time. Because you didn't do, I will not give you any remuneration. Dekho, I say chalaki, all this wonderful thing to save some money, to be vile with people who are dependent on us should never be done. So he says, that person, what sin he will get, may I get that sin for free. if I participate in any way in Rama's exilement. Then he says, when a praja to whom the king is beautifully taking care. In the previous case, it was a servant who has done a job beautifully well. Being very diligent, he's done a beautiful job. And you give some kahani and you're not paying him. On the other hand, there's a king who's taking care of his praja as if they are his own putravat, as if they are his own children. Rajnyo bhutani putravat paripalaya paripala paripalaya manasya ततश्नु द्रुह्यताम उनका द्रोह करना विद्रोह करना. Yes, for that person the king is so beautifully taking care of them, and you open the back door to the enemy. This has happened so many times in our Indian history, and that person, the kind of papa sin he gets is phenomenal for doing that treachery. So he says, may I get that sin if I have actually participated in this. And then he says, what are the king's sins? Now we spoke about the Praja's sins. So he lists what are the king's sins. So the next thing is, he says, a king, bhali shadbhagam uddhat uddritya. Yes, people are giving him taxes. They are actually taking care of the king. The king in turn is supposed to protect them. Instead of protecting them when the actual battle is at its peak, if you fail to protect them, you get the greatest sin, because you have put their trust down. They had their faith. They actually paid you, yeah, their taxes, and you are duty bound to take care of them. And therefore, if you see, traditionally the kings would never run away from battle. If an enemy is coming and if an enemy has to win over me, because who is going to be affected next? My people are going to be affected next. It will not be, it will only be over my dead body, because I am duty bound to protect them. After I die, if something happens, I can't do anything about it. But I will not allow it when I'm alive. So they will never run away from battle. This was the ethics of our people. Our people never fought a battle after sunset. Our people, the Rajas, we can say, or the Mughals and so many other invaders who came originally, these people lost to them because they had ethics and they fought according to ethics. Those guys, whether you see the whole history of Genghis Khan and so many other people, the only thing they would do is attack in night, just burn all the houses, kill all the men, rape all the women, take all the women and children as captives, go to the temples, finish the temples, take all the wealth that was there, break the deities that are there. What wonderful tradition. Huh? So this is not how our kings fought. Our kings fought according to dharma. So he's supposed to fight. And then when there is a full army, Hastya, Ashwa, Rata, Sambadho, all this is there. Full support is there. And the battle is at its peak. The enemy is becoming stronger at one point in time. The normal foot soldier will run away from that situation. But the king should not run away from that situation. He should be there in the front. And so far as the king is there, you see, an army will never get uprooted. They will think, oh, he's there, he's still fighting. Till his death, that's okay. But he's still fighting. But if the king takes a U-turn and runs away, then the praja, the rest of the army is immediately demoralized and they will run away. So a person who fails to fight, it's considered a great sin. He says, may I get that sin for running away from battle. Sangrame samupede sma. When the sangrama is explosive, shatru paksha bhayankare, when the shatru enemy is becoming bhayankara, at that time, palayamano vadyete. Yes, at that time, if he actually gives up and runs away, that sin may I get. And then he says, a guru take great pain in giving me knowledge. And then what I do is I don't pass that knowledge on to others. I just keep it with myself and this thing. That's what happened to the Brahmana community. They passed nothing on. And that's why today we are in such a dire situation with Sanatana Dharma. Or you go ahead, become worse than that. You distort that knowledge. Yes, you wantonly misstate it and adjust it to your whims and fancies. If that is going to be done, then That is the distortion of knowledge. That person is going to get a sin for that. May I get that sin if I had anything to do with Rama's banishment here? And then he says, talks about eating unoffered food. This is a whole list. It's a compendium of sins that he's talking about. Eats unoffered food that has not been offered to the Lord, and disrespects Guru Jana and the Brahmanas, shows disrespect to them. That person who gets that sin, yes, may I get all of that sin if I had anything to do with Rama's banishment. And then this is how he is explaining to Kaikeyi, to Kausalya, and say, I have nothing to do with this, Kausalya. Please understand me. A person who kicks a cow, abuses elders, breaches the trust of his friends. These are important things. Abusing the elders in the family. Yes. And for some people, they take pride. Oh, what to do, Prabhu? I'm Punjabi. हम लोग गाली के बिना कुछ नहीं करते. मुंह खोलता है, गाली ही आता है. It may be all this is story, but we cannot abuse elders. Yes. And breaching the trust of friends. This is what is the purpose. It's a very deep relationship, that is friendship. And if we are going to actually breach that the purity of that relationship, that's considered very, very bad, and should not be done. Gavascha prashatu padena. If you touch a cow with your leg, it's considered a great sin. So please be careful. Let's not ever come under that circumstance. Guru pari vadet. If you are actually speaking ill of them, mitradruh mitradruhyeta saha atyartaha. It's a great sin, mitradruhya, to actually give up on your friends. And then he says, may I get that sin, may I get all the sin for doing stuff like this. And then he says, hmm, actually, Dasharatha is also saying that. He said those people are fortunate who will get to be here when Rama comes back and Rama gets coronated. What fortunate people they are. Unfortunately, I will not be here, Dasharatha says. And here Bharata is saying, may I not get the opportunity of the good fortune of seeing Rama's coronation if I actually wished well. So even in his head, he is clearly defining that he has got Rama's coronation heavily planted in his head, and that's not going away anywhere. And in general dealings, there are many, many things. There is somebody who comes and speaks to you and says, this is my issue. I had a problem with my boss, da, da, da. And then this person goes and shares the same thing with the boss and makes your life hell. You let down somebody like that in general dealings, that's considered a great sin. So Bharata is mentioning that as a sin also. Vibrunotu sa dushtatma. Whatever he told, he goes and says exactly to the other person, verbatim, or adds a little, horns and ears and nose to whatever had been said and makes it even worse. Or if, some people say what to do, I just call the spade a spade. I don't care whether people like me or, but there are some people who are specialized in being hated by others. Yes, they are just a pain for society. So to be hated by all, just to say, to be hated by others, or one who commits suicide, those who are unhelpful. Mera kuch kaam ho raha hai, something happens to me, then I'm very happy doing that. If there is nothing in it for me, I will never do anything. In Tamil, they have a saying. They say, "Yachek kayyala kaka koda otamata." Means, वो खा रहा है, हाथ में दो चार चावल है, वो हाथ से वो कौवा, if a crow comes, he will not actually frighten the crow away. Why? Because that one grain of food will go away. So it may fall somewhere, some ant will eat, no, then it will benefit the ant. We should not in our life ever be beneficial to anybody else. We should only benefit ourselves. Yes. Or when somebody actually does something for us, helps us, does some great activity for us, don't we are going to duty bound to be grateful to them? Yes, we are. So to be an ingrate is a very big sin. So that also he is mentioning here. Those who are hated by everybody, who do act such that they are hated by everybody. They think they in their heart, they never want to help anybody. That person is a sinful person. The sin he gets by cultivating such attitude, may I get that sin. If somebody who's been helped is not showing gratitude, may I get that sin. If somebody commits suicide, decides to for want of a reason, sometimes for want of a reason, for a flimsy reason, or for a valid reason, committing suicide is not an acceptable thing, and it's considered a sinful activity. So if that's going to happen, if that sinful activity is going to happen, he says, "Hmm, may I get that sin." Then he says that there are some people, somebody, you ask somebody, your wife or somebody, to actually cook something that's very interesting. You love that particular thing, so you ask that rasmalai be made, and then there's a whole pot of rasmalai. So you go there to the kitchen, bring that pot of rasmalai to the bedroom, and you say, please don't tell my father, brother, my kids, or anybody. This is only for me. I will only eat alone. This is here. In case some of us are having even a slightest inclination in this direction, that when five ice creams are bought, you will finish the whole pack without even offering to the other person. This is a problem attitude to have. Hmm. Ekarta hi. Hmm. This person, putraihi daraischa, putrai daraischa pratyaischa. You have your sons, you have your wife, and you have your servants. Mm, Swagrihe parivaritaha, and in the house you are surrounded by everybody. Sa eko mrisham mrisham ashnatu. Sa eko mrisham ashnatu. Oh, this is, I never knew this is such a big thing. So interesting to hear this. And those who are to eat alone, not offering to others, and that others includes Brityascha, one's servants. We have a cook, and we cook the greatest food stuff every day, and the cook is the fellow who makes it, but he never gets to eat that stuff. Yes, that's not good. We need to actually take care of people who are working for us. So that sin that person gets, may I get that. Uh, then he says these are like literally like curses. The next few of them which are coming, these are heavy ones. He says, may that person get no wife, have no wife. Oh, what a loss. Some people will be happy, no wife, at least I'm free. This is after you have a wife, you realize that you can be free without them. Or if you get one, you get a useless wife. And if you get a wife, then you're childless. And if you're childless, and if you get a child, you have no religious activities, no deeds that you're doing. All this is being listed there. He's saying, may that person become like this. Yes, he's saying, if I had anything to do with this, then may, the sense that these people, may these accrue to me. And then he says somebody who betrays the king is also on the list. Then he says somebody who actually murders the king, murders a woman, murders children, murders elderly, and uh, deserting dependents. These are very, very heavy words here. Murdering a king, yes, causing harm to women, children, and aged is not acceptable. Deserting dependents, Vritya, Vrityatyage cha, people who are dependent on us, elders, servants, deserting them. When a situation becomes difficult, then immediately Kalivali, your visa cancel, get lost, go. Yes, and if they are people who've been working with you for a very long time, people doing things for you, been the servant of the family for 10, 15 years, we do nothing for them. Or whether it is parents, elders, sending them to an old age home, all that comes under this category. Great sin. Then, in connection with occupation, selling meat, madhumamsena, lohena cha, vishena cha, vishena cha, people who deal with poison. Who is dealing with poison today? Somebody makes a big business selling poison? Of course. Can you tell me who?
Prabhuji, pesticides?
Absolutely. pesticides, and there are a lot of medicines and steroids just being punched into people, big scale. Look at the abortion racket on one side. What is it? You actually inject poison so that the child inside dies. When it comes to, um, say, the C-section for women, all this is a complete racket. Yes, most women can have a natural delivery. It's just that these guys don't want to wait because they can take them to use their surgical theater need. They have to clock the hours and make the money. So like this, people who do sinful occupation, may the sins that they get, may I get those sins. Hmm. And then he says, there are people who work Bahuvidena, Vittani, Vividani Sahasrashaha. They do hundreds of different things. On one side, I'm doing office work, then I'm having a side hustle, and then I'm trading in the stock market, then I'm also in the Bitcoin, I'm also in the real estate market, then I also do some consultancy once in a way. I'm half a life coach on another, whole. So Vittani, Vividani Sahasrashaha. There are many, many things you do to accumulate wealth. He says, if I had ever had the intent of sending Rama, yes, may I see to it that all the wealth that I've collected will be stolen away, will be lost. Yes. And then he says, directly gives a curse beyond this. He directly gives a curse. He says, may that person become a beggar who is holding a skull on the surface of the earth and wander around wearing rags. Yes, and may I get the sins of uh, uh, being a person who is a womanizer, who is always addicted to wine and gambling, always in lust and anger. Yes, may that happen to me. Then he says, may I get the sin of those who sleep in dawn and dusk. Madhyana is not being mentioned. Morning and evening, Sandhya, is being mentioned, that one cannot sleep in the Sandhya Kala. So the request is, summer season, the Sandhya is bigger, sleep time is smaller. But we have to regulate our sleep in such a manner that we'll be up and going for Saim Sandhya, and we'll be up and going for Pratha Sandhya in the morning. So, you always have your, it's published on newspaper, it's available in your apps, it's available in Google, it's available everywhere. What time does the sun rise? So at that time, at least, if not before that, but at least at that time, you should be up and going. So you gain sin for sleeping at that time. This is an important one there. And then for that family where they don't have devatanam pitrinam cha mata pitro tataiva cha, for that family which does not offer obeisances, you don't have a tradition in your family, you don't have a culture in your family that you're offering obeisances to devatana, to the Lord and the devatas, to pitrinam, to our forefathers, and mata and pita. We don't have that practice. We don't offer obeisances. A lot of the fellows from South India, their body will never bend, because either they offer full obeisances and they say that is too difficult, so it's been abandoned fully. Full obeisances, abandoned fully. So now no obeisances at all. Never. Maybe when somebody gives a gift, that time you do one pranam to him once a year, Diwali time. But in North, it's beautiful. It's a half namaskar, just bend down and touch the feet. But that's also coming in Ramayana. But that's beautiful. When elders wake up, when you wake up in the morning, you go and offer obeisances. That's a wonderful thing. So I think I'm running out of time, and I have many more things to complete for the day. I can't go beyond this. I may need a 5-minute extension. Can I have permission? 5 minutes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Anybody else? If somebody, please excuse me, but 5, um, whatever it is, 9, 10 is hard stop for us, if you would permit me. This particular segment is very, very instructive and very beautiful. And then he says, yes, if I had anything to do with this, may I be expelled from the company, from the world of good people. Yes, because Satjana, they will not associate with Durjana. So after some time, they will say, okay, don't call him for this program anymore. Oh, Admi idhar jamta nahi, it doesn't gel well with us. So may that happen to me. And then if I've done anything good, if there is any praise, karyani, karmani, kirtihi, all of that, may all that go to waste. That I not have the association of good people. Yes, may I not get the opportunity. May if a person who does bad acts, he will not get the opportunity to serve his mother. Hmm. So that is serving one's mother is a duty, and that's being mentioned again and again and again in Ramayana. Then he says, may this person always be afraid. When you see a policeman, a normal guy, what does he? Why should he ever fear? In fact, if I have to ask for address, I will always go stop at a policeman and ask him, "Bhaiya kaise jayega?" But the rascal is always afraid. Police dekha to wo side bhag raha hai. Why? Because some people, it is just some papa that they are getting from their previous life that they are. Why are you afraid of the law? You want to live the life of a fugitive. So he says, may I become like a fugitive that I'm running in that manner. And then there are a couple of points which talk about wife and intimacy. This is a beautiful point, very important for grahasthas. Yes, some people set fire to a house. Atatai, as in the Bhagavad Gita, has been defined. So that's a great sin. But then the next is to betray a friend, or if there is somebody who functions as a guru, Siksha guru, or somebody, husband and wife are there, you start flirting with the wife. The person is giving knowledge to you, vice versa. You start flirting with that person who is Siksha guru and put put them in trouble. This is a big sin to do, and this is a big problem. Um, then neglect of the intimacy needs of one wife. Bharata is saying when the woman has her periods, and after that when she is actually desirous of being with her husband physically, at that time to avoid and say no is considered a sin. May I get that sin? Interesting. So Grahas says this is an important thing to understand. Abandon a good wife for somebody else's wife. This is a big sin and it should be avoided. Another curse coming up. He says, if I had anything to do with Rama's exile, then um, may the sin, yeah, that accrues to somebody because of which he has many kids, but he's completely poverty stricken, not able to take care of them. And on top of that, the icing on top of it, cherry, is that they are diseased. They are constantly. So that is a big problem, and that's such a painful situation to be. He says, "May I be in that situation if I ever wished ill for Rama." And then he says, "Vipralupta praja." If somebody may that person have low-born children. Uh, if a brahmana commits sinful activities, then he is going to get really low-born children. One sec, I'm having a power issue with my mobile. Hare Krishna, saved. And then comes pollution. Well, who cares? Where is it given in Shastra that you should not pollute? Yes, it is given here. Paniya dushake papam. What has happened now? Today, in the umbilical cord, they are able to see plastic parts because we are all throwing plastic. Who the hell started this nonsense plastic bottle that you have to drink in? We can never stop this particular thing. It's the stupidest practice to do, and the oceans are full of plastic because of that. So, pani yadushake papam, it's a great sin. All of us are complicit to this particular sin. Tathaivata vishadayake, and we are giving poison happily to the soil. We are giving happily poison to the water in the form of plastic. So, it is a sin to actually be doing that. Charity, to be not dharmic and to give wrong charity to the wrong guy. And if there is somebody who is coming and asking for alms, it's best to give them food. If prasadam A class, if that's not there, you're stuck in a particular situation, you don't have prasadam in hand, go to the supermarket, buy the person something to eat instead of giving him money. But generally they will say, no, 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 nahi, bhook, nahi. You give him food, then he will say, I don't want it. So this is very, very important. Specifically, these are poor people And specifically when they are mendicants, spiritual or elders for that matter, when they come to you with a hand stretched like this, with the eyes looking up to you, where they are begging something of you, and when you are capable of giving that, a person who does not give alms to them, though he is capable of giving them, is doing a sin. May I get that sin? And then he says, taking offerings that are actually meant for a brahmana and cow. You have actually spoken to a brahmana and you're saying you arrange for some worship and something to do, and then you say, I'll give you 500 dirhams. But then when the person comes, he says, no, I already gave you this, that, I'm giving you one dhoti, so another 20 dirhams cut from that, you take this. All of these are very dangerous activities. We shouldn't mess around with these. So, to not pay ascetics or brahmanas what you have committed to, or you committed to the Lord, that if this happens, if I get this BMW, then I will give you 500 dirhams. Yes? Or that story of another fellow, I don't have time for that, who said 50% already, Balaji, you took only 1 million I asked for, you only gave me 500,000, so I already gave you 50%. Yes? So the next one is a very important one. When somebody is thirsty, at that time, wait, let me finish my Counter-Strike game. When somebody is thirsty, it needs to be catered to immediately, specifically when they have come from outside, or if they are poor people who don't have water to drink. That's why if you see many people put pots and other things outside their home to be able to cater them. So this is another important thing. Then when two sects are having a debate, for instance, say the Mayavadis and the Vaishnavas are having a debate. But if you are having to adjudicate, if they've asked you to become a judge for that, and you actually wantonly take one side, though you're supposed to be neutral, but you take one side, it's a great sin. There is an example of Prahlad's son who has an argument or a debate with somebody, and as part of that debate, the other person opts to have Prahlad as the judge. You know why he would do that? Because he trusts that this is a sadhu and he will actually retain the principles of dharma, and he will truly give justice. It doesn't matter if the other person is a son, but he will give justice, because if he does not give justice, the person who is dharmika is definitely going to get sin. For that, he knows that he is going to get sin, so he wouldn't do that mistake. So all of this he lists, and what does he gain from that? So having heard this, Kausalya becomes convinced of Bharata's conviction. She's very happy seeing that, um, and so we will see that segment. And then there's one more principle that I want to talk about, which I had spoken about earlier. So by this, she says, "Oh dear child, fortunately your mind is unswerved from religiosity, from dharma. You have not moved one iota." Sahalakshana. So being truthful to your promise shall you, if you know, because you're truthful to dharma and you're truthful to your promise, you will attain the greatest of worlds. By swearing the oaths that you're taking, you're choking the very breath of my life, and my suffering has grown still more. So please stop. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm totally convinced of how convinced you are. You have convinced me that you have nothing to do with this under any circumstance. Um, so he wins the this thing of Kaushalya. So Bharata is happy having done that. It's 10, 9, 9, and I'm closing late for the day. Any last question, comment from anybody? Any first timers? Any comments? Has anybody ever heard, any first timers ever heard this kind of a compendium of sins before?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu Dandavat Pranam. No, Prabhu, this was the first time, and it was a very nice this thing. I'm feeling lucky to. I'm feeling blessed to join your this thing, Satsanga. And
We're going to have
relating
more
why
in
I
case
did
you're
it.
on the Ramayana Yatra. So those of you get ready. Even otherwise, there's more going to happen on Ramayana. We are just finishing Ayodhya. We will be starting Aranya in August when we come back. Hare
Okay,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you.
Prabhu.
Any other
Thank you
comments,
so much.
questions?
Krishna Babuji, Dandat Pranam.
Pranam.
By listening all these sins, seems like on earth nobody existing as pure person.
True.
very, very rare to see a sadhu, it seems.
True.
And because of after this British rule, the generation gap, though in the South, we know that it's etiquette, it's disrespect, but we are not so much deeply aware that kind of it's a sin, with talking against the elders. Nowadays, it's become fashion, what, your era is old, my era is the latest. But they're not even aware that these through they gave Janana to me, and I must be grateful. Don't have that fundamental knowledge. What kind of educational system or the society that we are living in? We are indebted to Srila Prabhupada who saved us from this hell. Really.
True. Thank you, Prabhu. Very valid point. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Any comments? I said hard stop, 9:11. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Everybody, please mic up quickly for a Jai Gosha and Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and we can wrap. Mic up, please. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki Jai.